Good morning. I did check that all of you are comfortable. I hope that's still the case. This is the wonder of universal design and the wonder of trying to make a space and a place and an experience as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. We get kind of pushed out of our comfort zones a bit. We have to think out of the box. Yesterday, we really struggled with the microphones, and today we have a roaming mic. Thank you very much, Chris. And so as we go along, we figure things out. All right, so it's my, I don't want to say dubious, but it's my task today, for most of the day, to talk you through the theory parts of universal design, and specifically universal design for learning. We have been throwing around a lot of terminology and words and stuff that some of you might be more comfortable with than others. So we'll take care of some of that, hopefully, today. I'll try to not say so much. And I'll try to not so much. Okay. One of the things that's important when we practice, and whatever I do, I try to practice universal design and universal design for learning. And I'll point out some of what I do as I go along. So one of the things that helps also in a classroom or in any space is to have an agenda, to set an agenda. I'm the type of person that kind of want to know what's coming next. I do not like surprises a lot. So set an agenda, then people and the students in your class will know what's happening. Also, this PowerPoint presentation is broken up into different parts as it is there on the agenda at the moment. So in your Blackboard, there's a folder that says PowerPoint presentations, and then there's a folder that says, I think, UDL theory. The introduction to UDL is one PowerPoint because I didn't want to give you all these long PowerPoints, and we're going to have a break between every kind of theme. The second one is the multiple means of engagement. The third one, representation, and the fourth one, action and expression. So there's there's 4 PowerPoints in the Blackboard for you. If you want to follow along right now, that's where you can access it also. All right, so that's our agenda. I'm going to introduce myself and just kind of learn a little bit more about you, because Chris seems to know everybody's names, which really amazes me, but I do not know you. So we're just going to do a little bit of that. I'm going to set the scene for UDL, and then we're going to dive in to the principles and kind of what the theory says around that. After, when I'm done today, there's going to be somebody also talking about technology and how to use technology and assistive technology, which I think might be helpful for many people. And some of the more kind of practical things will also be like tomorrow, and so there'll be more kind of talking about what this looks like. All right, so about me. I am a PhD candidate at Syracuse University. I'm defending my PhD proposal next week, so thoughts will be appreciated. And as you can hear, I'm not American. I'm originally from South Africa, and I came to do my PhD here because you remember Nancy said yesterday there's countries where there's not legislation like the ADA, or William or Nancy said it. I'm from one of those countries. We don't have legislation like the ADA. Given our apartheid history, we have very strong human rights legislation, but we do not have specific disability legislation, something that Michael and I have talked about before. So we really have difficulty, kind of sorting these things out. That's one of the reasons why I came here, but I specifically work in higher education and disability in South Africa. So I'm from the beautiful, colorful country of South Africa, and we are used to work with people, well, we call the Rainbow Nation, also. And we used to work with people from so many backgrounds, so many cultural experiences. We have a horrid history that we're trying to make things right after that. So when I think about universal design for learning, I do not just think about disability. Although disability is my passion, it is my love, and it's something that I identify very strongly with, specifically students with disabilities. I was the director, that photo always makes me smile so much. I was the director of an ODS, like an Office for Disability Services in South Africa for 8 years before I came here. And I realized that the students really did not have anything to support them legally, within the system. They just didn't. And that's what motivated me to come here. And I'm going back there next year when I've graduated, so I'm very excited about that. So, enough about me. Now, I want to just very quickly just learn something about you. And I'm going to give you 2 seconds to think about that. So, as I don't like surprises, sometimes I like spring questions on people, and then they're like, oh, I wanted to think about that. So I'm going to give you a second to think about, hopefully you know what your preferred name is. If you have specific pronouns that you prefer, you can also say that. But I'm interested to know, I just want to know the room a bit. So are you faculty or staff? What institution are you from? Because this year we have a wider range of people, not just OCC. And then the thing that people prefer to think about, one thing that people usually don't know about you. So I will go ahead and just kind of do that last little uncomfortable one. So one thing that people usually don't know about me is I was a physical therapist for 15 years. That's how I got involved in disability. And I worked with the South African Paralympic team in Beijing in 2018. I had the privilege to attend the Paralympic Games in Beijing. People usually don't know that about me. So I'm going to give you a second or two, I said minute, time is relevant, to think about that. I don't want us to go around the room. Usually it ends up going around the room anyway, but when you've had enough time to think and you think you can answer all of that questions, you can either speak out, put your hand up, clap your hands. Chris will bring the microphone to you, and if you would then not mind sharing those 4 things with us real quick. I want to try to make it quick so we can get going with the work. Yeah, we should. So there's our first candidate, Chris.
Don't say I never did anything for all of you. We give you more time.
Thank you.
Hi. My preferred name is Gino. My name is Gino Duca. I am faculty. I'm here at OCC. I just started in January. I teach in mechanical engineering technology. And one thing people don't usually know about me is that I am first-generation American. My parents were immigrants.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gino. I'm not as good as Chris is with names, but I'll try to remember.
Hi, my name is Petra or Petra, whatever you want to say. I am faculty. I'm a visiting assistant professor of German at Skidmore College. And one fact that people usually don't know about me, at least outside of Skidmore College and the German program, is that I love to play the ukulele, and at Christmas I make my students sing along.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Petra. Guten Tag.
Hello, my preferred name is Mona, she, her, hers. I teach German in Syracuse at an institution that's very orange. And one thing that people don't know about me most, I think you know, I have 1 chicken. And as of yesterday, I've decided that's my emotional support chicken. And another thing I would like to share with you, I don't speak Gebärdensprache, the German version of ASL or ASL, but I would like to become an interpreter between both in my dreams, if I ever have the time.
All right, we're getting some momentum.
Hi, my name is Cindy. She, her, or hers. I am faculty. I'm a physical therapist as well, and I'm the coordinator of the Physical Therapist Assistant Program here at OCC. And I guess the thing I've just taken up is pickleball. And for my birthday, I told my husband that I wanted some clothes to wear pickleball in, and he found a pickle costume. So I actually wear that every now and then when I'm playing pickleball.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to have a conversation with you, Cindy, about pickleball.
Pickleball is like a small tennis game. You think about it for seniors, but there's a lot of young people that play it. You're using a racket instead of a paddle instead of a racket. It's a lot of fun.
Mana, I had the same question, so thank you.
Hi. My preferred name is Kristen. I am faculty here at OCC, physical therapist in the Physical Therapist Assistant Program. What else? Something you don't know about me. I used to speed race the alphabet backwards with my brother, competitions when we were children. Other things might be. I can say it very fast.
You know we're going to make you do it.
Do you want to hear? It's my
Yes, go ahead.
ZYXWVUTSRQPONMOKJHGFEDCBA. I could go faster if my brother was in the room.
That's impressive.
I love to bake and run. Weird things to have in combination, but yeah, I love to bake, love to run. Thanks.
Can you just repeat your name again?
Kristen.
Kristen, thank you. I'm trying to. Who's next? Over there.
My name's Aaron, pronouns he, him, his. I'm a staff member at Skidmore College. I work in our instructional design and technology group. Something people don't know about me, I'm on my third career. I started out as an engineer, mechanical engineer, archaeology for 15 years, and I've been in instructional design for about 8 years now.
Fantastic, thank you. Over here.
I think you predicted that we would just go around the room. So here we go. I'm Kim Frederick. I am at Skidmore. I am in the chemistry department. I am faculty. And one thing that I don't think anybody at Skidmore, or I'm sure in this room knows, is that when I was in high school, I did one of those vocational tests. And it said that I should be a Venetian blind assembler. And that actually is fairly predictive of some of my basic personality traits.
Wow, okay.
Okay, we are going around. My name is Tabor Fisher, which is, I do prefer Tabor. I'm faculty at Lemoyne College where I teach philosophy. And one thing that people don't usually know about me is that I started out, I was going to be a concert pianist until a fun night of roller skating rearranged the bones in my left wrist.
Oh, no.
So big major change, but I love what I do. So it turned out good.
Thank you, Deborah.
Hello, I'm Tina. I'm I'm social work and human service faculty here at OCC. I coordinate that program. And kind of keeping with the theme of what people wouldn't know about work, I used to think that I wanted to either be a secretary and go to school for 9 months or a psychologist. I wasn't quite sure which. And when I sat down to talk to a career counselor and she looked at the spelling errors on my application, she said, we need Plan B without a doubt. You're not going to be a secretary. And so I stumbled into the career path that was certainly meant to be for me, and then some.
Thank you, Tina.
I'm Jane. I'm faculty in the business department. I teach accounting, an Excel spreadsheet for business, and starting in the fall, I'm going back to a course that I taught 30 years ago and developing it online. Something people don't know about me is I lost total hearing on my left side when I was 54. So I don't understand sign language because I was too old. I never had to do that. And then on the fun side, I'm an avid baker.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura. I am an adjunct here at OCC. I teach in the Electronic Media Communications Department. And something you don't know about me is I love to craft, although it seems like I never have time to anymore.
Okay. Can we maybe take the mic back over there, seeing that we're moving around?
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Savadoff. You can call me Susan. I teach here at OCC. I'm an adjunct in the English department. I teach ILS, Integrated Learning Strategies, and ESL, which actually became my passion just a few years ago. I love, love, love working with ESL students. One thing most people don't know about me is I became a teacher very late in life. I became a teacher at age 40 and got my master's at age 40, and here I am. Thank you. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Sisak. I've been at OCC for 11 years now in the ILS / used to be called Reading Lab over in this Study Skills Center and Learning Center. And recently I started adjuncting as well. Now that my kids are older, I can work a little bit more outside of the home. Something people don't know about me is my family for the last 25 years has owned a historic prison in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. So check it out online. It's the Old Jail Museum in Jim Thorpe, and that's my family's business. We talked my sister into taking over for my parents who are in their 80s and thought this was a nice way to retire, only it turned into this huge business, and they really want to retire. So that's my thing people usually don't know.
That's very interesting. Thank you, Kathleen. I think we need to, over there. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, hi. My name is Rich. I am a faculty member in the Electronic Media Communications
Can
Department.
you lift the mic a little bit?
Sorry.
There.
Oh, is that better? Okay, I'll just repeat that. My name is Rich. I'm in the Electronic Media Communications Department with Laura. I am an instructor's assistant, which usually people don't know what the heck that is, so I'm kind of an oddball in an OCC here for many reasons. Don't say anything, Laura. I got into education late. I worked in broadcasting before I came here, and I'll be in my late 40s by the time I get my master's degree, so I understand. Yeah. And one thing people usually don't know about me is one of my favorite bands is Black Sabbath. They usually don't think that's the case when they see me, so.
Black Sabbath, hey. Cool. Thanks, Rich.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Eady. I am the Director of Student Leadership and Engagement here at OCC. Prior to my role in student leadership, I was in advising for a year, but my long-term career path had been residence life. So I lived on a college campus for almost 20 years, from undergrad straight through until I moved back to Syracuse. And all three of my boys were born while living in a residence hall. Not physically in the residence hall, but they lived in the residence hall with us. So I was glad I had to make that clarification. So one thing most people don't know maybe right off the bat is I went to school to become an art teacher and started off actually going for special ed when I kind of changed paths a little to go into higher ed. But now that my kids are in school, there's still this calling to come back to the elementary school, but we'll see. So maybe there'll be another master's in my future.
My name is Sarah Hartman. I am the Alcohol and Other Drug Prevention Coordinator here at OCC. I'll do two things. So going along kind of with the theme of everything, I started off as an elementary school teacher, and then I kind of fell into the field of drug and alcohol prevention. And then I just loved being able to have open conversations with students and educate them on the topics of drug and alcohol. So I think I have the coolest job in the world. One thing that most people don't know is that I have a 6-month-old golden retriever named Harper, and she is my fur child. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
I just want to say thanks for doing this because it's helpful to us to get to know each other as well. So
just lift the mic a little.
Okay.
There you go.
My preferred name is Rebecca. I am faculty and soon to be part-time administration. I'm from SUNY Upstate Medical University, but I'm a literature PhD. So if you're curious about that, I'm happy to talk about it. Something people typically don't know or guess about me is that for like a year and a half, I was hanging out on the outlawed drag racing scene in New York City and occasionally the tri-state area.
Wow. Just hanging out, right? Thanks, Rebecca.
My name is Michael. I am faculty. I teach at the College of Law, where I direct the law school's Disability Rights Clinic. We represent live clients with disabilities, and all from employment to access to prison rights, etc. I've been doing that now for 15 years. Prior to that, well, actually, I've been an attorney now since 1982 and a professor at SU since '06. So one thing people don't know about me is that I volunteer at a dog shelter called Helping Hounds. Yep.
Thank you,
It's a
Michael.
great place. So, I really enjoy the dogs far more than I enjoy faculty meetings.
I think there's a lot of people that agree with Michael about that. Thank you, everybody. Did you learn something about people that you thought you knew? Yeah. Okay. It's always fun for me. I've also kind of learned now that not only are there also physical therapists in the room, I'm also getting into teaching very late in my life. I'm older than people think I am too. I won't give that away. We had to leave our dog children at home when we came here, so the love for dogs, a lot of things that we have in common. But also, there's a lot of variety in the room. We come from different places, different spaces, different academic backgrounds. We already yesterday very quickly had the medical field conversation, which is something that I'm also very passionate about, having worked in it and knowing how hard it is for somebody who studies in the medical field to sometimes get adjustments or accommodations or to, practice universal design. All right. Oh, what did I just do? Oh, the wrong button. Okay. So, in this room today, you're welcome to interrupt me. For those of you who don't know the cultural reference, that is Kanye West interrupting Taylor Swift at some other award show. So you're welcome to interrupt me at any time. If you want to ask questions, you don't have to, and you can jump up, stamp your feet, put up your hand. You can move around as much as you want to. I am an adult with ADHD. I have to move around, love to move around, but I'm a little bit constricted here because we're filming and all kinds of stuff is going around, so I'll be doing this, and just, sorry, let me know if it irritates you. If I'm blocking anybody's view of any of the screens, that's why we try to utilize as many of the screens as we can. Please just go, and I'll kind of move. But you're also welcome to get up, move around. As we're not all comfortable sitting for long times, I'll try to give breaks. I might sit for a while to be more comfortable. Then I can do this, and it feels like I'm moving. When you need a break, please let me know. If you want me to just stop and just move around, let me know that as well. If I need to speak louder, which I doubt would be the case, please indicate that for me. If I need to speak slower, also please tell me, because that I do. I do speak too fast sometimes. Questions are always welcome. And then I know that my accent can be interesting sometimes. I think I speak fairly good English, but last year, I'm trying to think, what did I say? Oh, when I said the what people don't know about me, I said that I love tap dancing. I said tap dancing. And people all had this really kind of confused look on their face, and somebody's like, tap what? And I'm like, oh, tap dancing. So I also will talk about a calf muscle, and then people think I'm talking about coughing. So if you do not understand clearly what I'm saying, please indicate that to me. That's important to me that I'm understood.
Could you clarify for the interpreter, what is a calf muscle?
A calf. See? Perfect example. Calf muscle. There you go. All right. So we're all in this space together. We're all using this space together, and I try to be as respectful and as inclusive as I can, as I said, and I think that's sometimes something that we forget in our classrooms as well, that not all students are comfortable with sitting for long times. You know, I grew up with, like, you sit and you don't get up and go even to the bathroom while you're in the classroom. You sit there later and you're like, you're not listening a word what anybody's saying because you want to go to the bathroom, but you have to sit until the teachers say that you can go. So just things to keep in mind. All right. Who of you are familiar with Poll Everywhere? Okay, quite a few of you. There's many things that I'm going to talk about today that I'm not necessarily going to give examples of, just purely because I teach UDL with my academic advisor at Syracuse University for a semester, right? And I'm doing it in a day today. So there's really not, I'm not going to do like all of the examples of things, and I have to figure out this computer. All right, so I'm just going to try this one Poll Everywhere. Let me just go back to the slide real quick. So to explain Poll Everywhere is something that you can use in the classroom for like instant response from students. And what also is very nice about it, it's anonymous. So that student that prefer not to talk in the classroom but do want to say something, that's one of the things. Let me just make this big again. So you can either access it from your computer or you can access it from your phone. So on your computer, you can go to polllev.com/HETSIEV356. And nothing's going to happen just yet. I'll kind of talk you through it. If you want to do it by phone, and that's because most of our students have phones, right? In the classroom, most students have phone. So then you text HETSIEV356, text that to 37607. You have to send the text, right? And then in the texting, you'll get a message back that says you are registered for the poll. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm going to check that everybody is with us before I continue. Actually, you can go out here. Okay. Is everybody kind of there? And I made the poll live already, so it looks like some people have started to respond. Not yet. Because I want you to see what happens when you respond, but I want to make sure that everybody is in. Can just indicate for me if it's okay to go. We're good to go. Not right now. Yeah, the number is 37607 that you texted to. All right. This is also a very good example of not all students in our classes know technology equally well, and not all students in our classes respond at the same speed. So we have to allow time, which is something that I'm always like, things need to happen. All right. People have been responding. All right. So what you can do now is either email. So the question is English. On your computer, just answer the question, or you can just text the word. Remember to send. So the question is, can you think of possible barriers that students in your classroom might experience? So whatever you can think of, and you can do it multiple times. So text the word and just send it. and then you'll see what happens. You just, the response, just send it to that, in that text. So there's you got a thing that says you registered, right? Yeah. So in that text, what do you call it? Conversation. Just, put the word and just hit enter. Okay. Then it should come up there. So what I'm trying to just kind of give you an idea of, this is something that you can use in the classroom, and there's different ways that you can show it while you to the class. So students can, and you should see some of the words that you have used up there. And as people are texting more words, more of the words are coming up there. But what also happens, you see some words are bigger than others. Those are words that's used more than once. So more than one person probably said anxiety. More than one person probably said language. Probably one person said shyness, because that's smaller there. It's a fun way, like for as a visual method for your students to show kind of what the others are saying, because it's coming up in a word cloud. That's something different. That's fun. You can also set it to come up in, if you set up a question that you want like number responses, like how many students in the class prefer chocolate over chips or something, can't even think. Then you can also set it up that it's a bar that comes up with a percentage. So there's many different outputs that you can use. But the actual reason that I use this as a specific kind of example is, I mean, if I've asked, and if we've gone through the room again now, how long would that have taken for everybody to say technology, attention, anxiety, how much time that would have taken us? And this was a couple of seconds, and there it is, right? And also specifically, that's so important, your non-talkers, the shyer students in your class who don't feel comfortable, who might have language challenges, that gives them, because it's anonymous. So, and if when it is kind of difficult topics that students might not want to talk about, I find it many times when we have, in South Africa specifically, when you have conversations about race in education also, it gets very heated very quickly, and when you do that, students have the chance to say without feeling that they're going to be victimized or that they're going to be kind of called out. So, and when you're done, you can just text leave, and then you'll go, you'll be out of the poll again. Yes?
Is this something that we have access to?
So Poll Everywhere is a free app. So you can go to polleverywhere.com on your computer, and then you just register. You just create for yourself like a user profile. It is for free up to 40 responses, I think. So if you have more than 40 students in your class or in your group, then it becomes hard, because then you need to buy the more professional version. And the more professional version, you can, when you ask things in terms of, when you want answers, you can even do testing like this. Then with a pro version, you can actually get a printout of the answers, and you can keep that for your records also. So there's more to do. Like with most of these apps and things, right? They say, oh yeah, it's for free, but only if you use it for 5 people or something like that. So, but if you have smaller classes, if you want to use it for smaller groups, it's for free. I'll go out here and just show you. So it's polleverywhere.com, and I've signed into here's my polls. You set up your poll the way that you want it, you activate it, but it talks you through it, and this one is now full, so we've had more than 40 responses. But it's something that you can set up, by yourself. And I'm sure that at schools where, technology is supported, I'm not sure how it works, if people would get funding or if they would be supported to sign up for a paid version of it, because that definitely is a little bit more, you can do way more things with it. The people that have indicated that they know Pole Everywhere here, does anybody care to share kind of what their experience has been? What have you used it for? There was a couple of people who like showed hands.
During our college open house for high school students, I've used it to ask for the participants to ask us questions. One, it was to help expedite, the raising the hand and that piece, but also for those shy students who really wanted to ask a question about getting involved on campus or what it's like to have a roommate, but were embarrassed to ask sitting in front of their peers. So that was our way to do it. The only downside was it wasn't Pole Everywhere specific, but it was the same type of platform. Was the first time we used it, we had the questions were scrolling so everybody could see it, and so sometimes they were high school students, and they would occasionally put some things that weren't appropriate, so I had to monitor and keep moving the screen so that not everybody could see that question. So that was my learning lesson to it. They could see it on their phone, so it wasn't that I couldn't completely prevent it, but if they were saying something inappropriate, at least it wasn't up for everybody to see.
Thank you. Yeah, I've used it only in a limited way because I'm not quite adept at it yet. But so I've used it for course evaluations, just getting the students to do that all in class. And I've used it in a more limited way for asking questions that, like I've had students raise their hands in response to questions. So for example, teaching a bioethics course with a disability dimension, asking questions about, at what point would students consider it being, okay to say we're going to terminate a pregnancy with a certain kind of disability, like getting them to sort of reflect on their own kind of ethical framework for that. It's much different doing that through Pole Everywhere than if you were having them raise their hands in the class. I've seen it used in other classes in a way that was problematic, actually, where I feel like it has to be framed before you go for the word cloud, especially these were in very large groups of medical students, like 150, 160, where the professor had asked them to just respond to images on the screen, and there were always mocking and inappropriate contributions that really undermined the whole exercise, and I don't know quite how maybe by framing it, using it further along in the course, you can maybe avoid that. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's perfect. That's a good example. I'll get to you now, Tina. That's a very good example of an uncomfortable conversation, right? When you talk about ending, like decisions about ending pregnancy, which is not, it's something that a lot of people don't want to necessarily talk about, but they would, be able to put that up. And we'll talk a little bit about the things that you can do to make it easier.
My concern was the inappropriate comments that would be hurtful to other people. And remember, when I taught in women's studies at SU, we had the kind of support that really allowed you to push what you had to push and supported you as an instructor in those ways. There are times here when if a classroom, that my adjuncts will have, for example, if a classroom discussion gets challenging, or if someone mishears, or frankly, someone just misrepresents, there's not always a sense of backup and support for that teacher trying to manage it. And so this would be so useful if there was backup. But if the teacher's concern is that they're going to be called in somewhere because someone across the room wrote something and someone else didn't respond, I worry that it undermines it. And I just wonder if there's anything in place that would help that.
Great, and that's a great example of, again, we can't always find answers for everybody with everything, right? Not everything works for everybody. I was in a similar situation where there was like the scrolling responses, and some students are students, right? They put up like, it was more kind of jokingly. It wasn't, at least it wasn't rude, or name calling, but like yesterday Nancy said, the way that students talk to each other, things that they call each other. So there's many different ways. Let me go back there quickly. hope I didn't close it. There's many different ways that you can ask for responses, and I don't want to spend too much time now looking for. I'm not gonna find it right now, but one of the suggestions that I would make is like the way that you let them respond. There's many different options. So you can put in, and that usually is with a pro version also, you can put in a bit of a time lag so it doesn't come up immediately. So you can kind of just edit it a bit or moderate it a bit. There are ways that, as I think it's Chris, was it? Sean, sorry, I'm trying with the names. As he said, you don't have to display it to everybody immediately. You can have it come up and then afterwards, turn the display on once you've moderated it a bit. There's many different you can use, as Rebecca was mentioning, maybe with evaluation, you can use multiple choice questions also, and then that comes up. I just used the word cloud as a example because I'm a visual learner and I love word clouds, and that's a fun way, but I think that's one of the least kind of ways that people really use it. There's many other ways that you can use it too. One thing that's really important with anything, I think, and that's also a good example of universal design in a classroom, is, as I did this morning, to set the scene. So to set house rules, right, classroom rules, and you build relationship with your students. I hope we can manage to do that, and that everybody agree before we do this, right, that we will be truthful, we will be respectful, we will be, and that's something that I think is so crucial and that we forget about, is if we all agree that we will do something in a specific way in the classroom, then when somebody doesn't do that, and I've seen that with students, the other students will call them out, right? Then it's not just on the instructor to say, hey, we agreed to not use that word and now you're using that word, but there will be, there'll always be that joker or, the tough guy or, somebody who's kind of not sticking to the rules. But you always will also have the student that will say, hey, that's not what we agreed upon. That's not what we... So to set some ground rules, I call it house rules usually, at the beginning of a class or of a session, that also helps, that. But, you can't prevent all of it every time. And that's one of the things. We use more and more technology. Tom Tobin in his book writes a lot about, how you can use technology. But... it doesn't always work for everybody. I mean, we've seen a lot of that already here, how you kind of need to move things around to try to make provision for everybody to access things. It's always a process. So universal design is always a process. It's not a solution. It's not a recipe. And it always is kind of a work in process that you have to kind of go with trial and error. So the goals for today is that I hope that you would understand and have a deeper understanding of UDL at the end of this day. As I said, I teach a whole semester of this, and we're doing it in part of a day. So you're welcome to, sometimes I'm going to try to move it along just so we get to everything, but then you're welcome to talk to me when we break. I'll be here tomorrow. So that we can talk about it a bit. I'm going to just demonstrate the basic guidelines and not go into it too deep because that's going to take too much time. I'm going to give some examples of tools. I'm not going to demonstrate all of them, but I'll give you, and you have the PowerPoints. So in the PowerPoints, the links are live. So if you go into the PowerPoints and you click on the links, I tried to put in links for the different tools, like Poll Everywhere or some of the others that I'm going to just tell you about. So if you go into the PowerPoint tonight or tomorrow or whenever you work with it, you can just click on the live link and it should take you to the website where you can either use this tool or download it or so. So, and please, if any of you, you are the experts in terms of your field in this room, if any of you have used a similar tool, you mentioned something similar to Poll Everywhere, somebody comes up with an app and then somebody else does something similar because they want it to be better or they want to make money out of it. Or So I always like when people say, hey, there's a free version of this somewhere. Because I'm also from a space where there's very little resources. But if anybody has suggestions of something that you've used in your classroom, please share it with the rest of us. We really appreciate that. And hopefully this day prepares you for what Chris and them expect of you the rest of the time. So for the introduction, I'm going to talk briefly about the origins of UDL. Professor Stephen Kusisto, who was the keynote speaker yesterday, we very fondly call him Steve K in the kind of disability community at SU. But he spoke about some of the things already yesterday, so he made my job a little bit easier about some of the principles and about the history. He spoke about Ron Mace. So, but for the introduction, I'm just going to go briefly through kind of how this all comes together, some of the language, and then I'll introduce the framework, and then we're going to break it down and kind of take there's 3 basic guidelines and the principles in the framework, and then we kind of break it down in between. How are we doing in terms of comfort? Do we need to stand up a little bit? Do we need to move around a little bit? Shake really a little bit? We still okay? All right. Okay. So UDL really came from, people were doing research about education. And, more and more, this focus started to move towards student-centered learning. Hopefully, we are kind of past or getting past, somebody standing in front of the class and talking, and students taking notes and then going home, but being more student-centered and inclusive and including everybody in the class. Also, neuroscientists developed neuroscience as a field developed more and more with neuroimaging techniques, where they would put little things on somebody's brain and then let them do certain activities, and then they would see, like one side of the brain is activated when you do this, another side of the brain is activated when you do that. And just kind of learning that people learn in different ways, and that people need different ways to interact with their academic work. And then, and Steve mentioned this yesterday, Ron Mace was a wheelchair user, and he was also an architect. And he came together with some of his architect friends, and they started with architectural universal design. That's where this really all comes from originally. And they figured out when there's a ramp by the door, people call it the wheelchair ramp. Well, it's just a ramp. It's a ramp that everybody can use. Yes, it is essential for somebody who uses a wheelchair. A mother with a stroller is very grateful. A delivery guy with a trolley is very grateful. There's many uses for spaces that seemingly sometimes is just for specific users. And if I put my disability studies hat on, what happens also sometimes is if we now say it's the wheelchair ramp, then we want to include people, right, in community, but now we're kind of separating people again, right? So we're kind of being counterproductive. We're doing the opposite of what we want to do when we now designate things just, for specific disabled people or people with specific needs. I was thinking also with the ESL, and students with other needs that isn't necessarily classified as a disability, but many of the things that we do with UDL in the classroom is really beneficial for second language users. I use captions a lot, especially when somebody is talking fast. I use captions a lot to just kind of follow. That's how I watch American television, because I can't otherwise. And that's, it's not captions for the deaf, it's captions so that everybody can have access to this television program. And then digital tools, technology has become amazing, has created a lot of opportunities to make things more accessible for more people. But as we've had Rebecca said, Tina said, it can also have the opposite effect. It can also kind of hamper us. So we always need to, it's a continuous process of thinking, is this really the best option? Is this really the best thing to use? So if we did just go a little bit back to some academic theory. UDL, really, the framework really combines kind of all of these things that I just talked about from a constructivist approach. So constructing the way that we think about education and going forward. I love the Dewey quote there that says, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. You know, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So just thinking outside of the box and creating new ways of doing it. That's just an image to just show you how like visual and specific within neuroscience, they have kind of started to look at things, and we can get into many conversations about the medical approaches and so, but on the left is a brain of somebody with ADHD, and on the right, somebody who don't have ADHD, and you can, it's just kind of to indicate that different parts of the brain is activated with like the same activities, and the human brain is a variable, you know, just as anything else. All right, so when we think about the physical part of it, the house on the left has a ramp in front of it, right? The house on the right also has a ramp in front of it. So can we all agree that those are both accessible entrances? That are wheelchair accessible, right? What would you say is the difference between the two? If you look at the two houses, so somebody, so Michael is saying aesthetics.
The house on the left has been retrofitted, and the house on the right we thought about accessibility.
Perfect, perfect. So the house on the left, and I'm just going to repeat, the house on the left has been retrofitted, so it's been an add-on that's been added later, and the house on the right has been designed from the start thinking that the entrance should be accessible. And that's how we think about universal design, right? The house on the left was used for this evasive, and we'll get to that soon, normal user, and then the ramp was added on. And then the house on the right was designed like that from the start. And we tend to do that in our classrooms also, right? We teach for the average student, and then we kind of add on and make things work for other students, where when we think from the start about how can I do this in kind of multiple ways so that it is accessible or enjoyable for most of the students in my class. So the usability part of it was also mentioned, I think Steve mentioned it yesterday, that sometimes something can be accessible but not necessarily usable. So it's also important to remember that people engage with things in different ways, but they want to have the same experience, right? So the outcome is also what we think of. What do I want to reach? What is my goal? What am I working towards? And if I know, say to all of us, assuming that we all know where the cafeteria is, let's go to the cafeteria. Somebody might walk this way, somebody might go that way, but they'll all get there in the end, right? So making sure that that we also think about the usability. Then accessibility is sometimes thought about, like UDL is many times, and Tom Tobin in his book also talks about it, that UDL is thought of as like a way of doing accessibility. It really is not. UDL does not equal accessibility, all right? So we don't think about UDL from like a disability framework. It's part of it, but you can't make provision for everybody. So therefore, sometimes you will still need a sign language interpreter for somebody specifically. You will need material in Braille. So there might be additional accessibility things that still needs to be done. We can't say, oh, my class is universally accessible, so I'm never going to need to make adjustments or make accommodations. It does not negate the accommodations and the accessibility that we need to create sometimes. All right. Interestingly enough, I've been using this for a while, and then I saw it's actually also in Tom Tobin's book that you received. But this is an interesting visual image and description. And I actually wanted to say that earlier too, with the word cloud and with Poll Everywhere. William mentioned it yesterday, it's very visual examples that I'm using, right? So whenever you use visual examples like this, you always need to make sure that you are describing it also, and that you're making sure that everybody can access it visually. So this image has kind of been around for a long time. So in the first image, there's 3 people of kind of like different body sizes. They're all standing on the same little sized box, and they are trying to look over this fence, and only one can like really see comfortably, the second one maybe, and the third one not at all. Then in the second one, the boxes have been changed, so now all of them can see over the fence. So what are we thinking about? What is the goal? They all want to be able to see the game, right? The barrier is the fence that's there, so why not remove the fence? Put a different fence. You don't want people to be able to run onto the field. You know, somebody might just decide, oh, I want to join the game. So you can, put a different barrier there. But then again, putting my disability studies and my social justice hat on, we also just think many times of a certain kind of person. So, I mean, I probably shouldn't go there right now, because then I'm going to be talking for hours, but it's all white bodies, it's all male bodies, just from looking at the picture. So to just use different images sometimes in our classes, also remembering that our students don't always look, all of our students don't look the same. All right, so you've heard this from yesterday, you've heard this from different people. But UDL is a framework. Again, it's not a recipe, it's a way of thinking, and it's a way that we kind of plan and think about our classes. It is not a solution, and it is not the answer to everything. What it can do, it can reduce unnecessary barriers. It can provide some accommodations. It doesn't always provide all. It can also, provide high achievement expectations for all your students, right? If you expect of them to do well and you think, what can I do to make them do well? What would they need to do well? That's many times when, many times I talk about, and somebody would say, but I've been doing that in my classroom. Is that universal design? And it really is. It's about having high expectations from your students and variability. We have students from everywhere in our classes. And it's about thinking about everybody from the start. So this little cartoon is one of my favorite ones. It's very apt in Syracuse with the snow. So it's this cartoon with snow, and there's this person, it looks like an entrance to a school, I would say. Person is shoveling the steps. And then there's a wheelchair user on the left, and he said, can you please shovel the ramp? And the person who's shoveling says, all these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I will clear the ramp for you. And then he says, but if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in. All right. So it's time for us to take a little break. Why don't we just take a quick body bathroom break, not longer than 5 minutes, and then we're going to jump into the actual framework and kind of get through all the nitty-gritty of it.